Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're diving into ecosystems.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. I find ecosystems to be so fascinating.
Absolutely.
When you look at a forest or a lake, even a backyard, it's easy to see just a bunch of plants and animals. But,
Right.
There's this hidden network, right? This intricate dance of life that's happening beneath the surface.
It's true, and everything's so connected.
Yeah.
Each element from the tiniest microbe to the, towering trees plays a role in this complex web of interactions.
Yeah, and our listeners, sent in some Wikipedia excerpts about ecosystems,
Yeah.
clearly eager to unravel this web.
Yeah.
So we're going to be your guides today.
Awesome.
We're going to explore, the key processes that make ecosystems tick, how scientists study these intricate systems, and of course, how we humans fit into the picture, all without getting lost in the jargon.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
We want to make sure you walk away with some aha moments.
Exactly. Now, when we say ecosystem, what are we talking about? It's a word we hear a lot.
Right.
What does it actually mean?
Well, think of it this way. An ecosystem is a community of organisms interacting with each other and their physical environment.
Okay.
Everything from sunlight and water to the rocks and the soil.
So it's not just who's there,
Right.
but it's like the stage they're on and how they're using it.
Exactly. It's the combination of the living and the non-living
Okay.
that all work together that makes it an ecosystem.
What I find so fascinating is just the sheer scale of ecosystems.
Right.
I mean, we can talk about a tiny puddle as an ecosystem,
Right.
but then you can zoom out to an entire rainforest,
Yeah.
even the whole planet.
Absolutely. And what's funny is that the term ecosystem itself is relatively recent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it emerged less than a century ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Arthur Tansley was a British ecologist, and he coined the term ecosystem in 1935
Okay.
because he saw this crucial link between living things and their environment, not just as separate entities, but as a functioning whole.
So he recognized that it was all connected.
Exactly.
Okay, so Tansley gave us the word.
Yes.
But what's actually going on within an ecosystem?
Yeah.
What makes it dynamic, constantly changing, adapting, all of that?
Well, there are two main forces at play.
Okay.
First, you have these external factors,
Okay.
things like climate,
Mm-hmm.
soil, type geography of the location.
Okay.
These are like the ground rules
Okay.
that shape what kind of life can thrive in that environment.
So if external factors are the rules,
Yes.
then the players would be.
The internal factors,
Okay.
the interactions that are happening within the ecosystem.
Okay.
So this includes how organisms compete for resources, the predator-prey relationships,
Right.
even events like fires or floods that disrupt the system.
So it's this constant push and pull
Exactly.
between the environment setting the stage
Right.
and the life within it responding and evolving.
Yeah, it's this beautiful dance.
But there's got to be some order to all of this.
Yeah.
Right? What are the key processes that keep an ecosystem running?
So one of the most fundamental processes is primary production.
Okay.
It's like the engine that powers the whole system.
Okay.
And it all starts with plants
Okay.
and photosynthesis.
Yes, photosynthesis.
Yes.
The process that made, all of us air breathers possible.
Exactly.
You remind us how that works?
Of course. So think of plants as nature's solar panels.
Okay.
They capture sunlight,
Yeah.
and they use that energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugars,
Okay.
which is their food source. And as a byproduct, they release oxygen
Right.
into the atmosphere.
So basically, plants are turning sunlight into usable energy for the whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
Oh.
That's the basis of it all.
So what happens to that energy next?
It gets transferred through what we call food chains, okay?
Okay.
The classic scenario, a herbivore eats a plant, then a predator eats the herbivore.
Right, right.
And each step in that chain is called a trophic level.
Okay.
So imagine a pyramid with plants at the bottom, the herbivores in the middle, and then the predators at the top.
Okay, so I'm picturing that pyramid. So the higher up you go,
Right.
the fewer organisms there are
Right.
because they need to consume more
Exactly.
to get enough
They
energy.
need more to sustain themselves.
But what happens when those organisms at the top, or any level for that matter, die?
That's where decomposition comes in.
Okay.
Another essential process.
Okay.
So when organisms die, decomposers like bacteria and fungi, they break down the remains
Okay.
and they return those nutrients to the soil.
So it's like nature's recycling program.
Exactly.
And then those nutrients fuel more plant growth,
Yes.
which kickstarts primary production all over again.
The cycle continues.
It's amazing how interconnected it all is.
It truly is. It's a remarkable system.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how scientists even begin to study these systems.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so complex. It's like trying to understand a city by looking at individual bricks.
You're right, and that's where the field of ecosystem ecology comes in. And it's about studying those interactions within an ecosystem as a whole rather than just focusing on individual parts.
So they're zooming out to see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, how do they do that?
Well, they have some amazing ways to do it. One approach is long-term monitoring.
Okay.
So, for example, there's the Hubbard Brook ecosystem study in New Hampshire,
Okay.
where scientists have been tracking everything from water flow to nutrient cycles for decades.
Decades, that's dedication.
It is. It's amazing work.
Yeah, I'm guessing they've learned a lot.
They have one of their most significant discoveries was actually acid rain
Oh, wow.
back in the 1970s.
Wow.
By meticulously analyzing the chemistry of streams in the Hubbard Brook Forest, they noticed this increasing acidity,
Okay.
and they were able to link it to air pollution from industries.
Wow, so studying an ecosystem's inner workings can actually lead to major environmental breakthroughs.
Absolutely. It's not just about understanding for understanding's sake. It can have real-world impact.
Yeah, and besides long-term monitoring, what other methods are there?
Right. So there are other methods like comparing different ecosystems to understand their variations, or even building these controlled microcosms in a lab to test specific hypotheses.
It's like they're piecing together a giant puzzle.
Precisely.
Yeah, and with every piece, we gain a deeper understanding of these systems that make life on Earth possible.
Exactly.
Speaking of life on Earth, that brings us to a question I'm sure you're wondering. Where do we fit into all of this?
Right.
We're part of ecosystems too, right?
We are indeed.
Yeah.
And our actions have a profound impact, both positive and negative, on the ecosystems we inhabit. But that's a conversation for the next part of our deep dive.
All right, we'll pick that up in part 2.
So, humans and ecosystems. What's so fascinating is that we often forget how much we rely on these systems for our own well-being, you know? It's not just about the obvious things like food and water.
Right. We need to think about some of the more hidden benefits.
Exactly.
What else are ecosystems doing for us?
Well, think about it. Ecosystems help regulate our climate. They help control floods and storms. They purify our air and water.
Wow.
They pollinate our crops. I mean, the list goes on.
It's a lot.
It is, and we call these ecosystem services. And it's essentially the benefits we get from healthy, functioning ecosystems.
So it's like ecosystems are these silent partners working tirelessly to provide us with all these essentials.
That's true.
And we don't even realize it half the time.
We take them for granted.
Yeah.
We don't always see that connection between a thriving forest and the clean air we breathe, or a healthy wetland and the protection it offers from coastal erosion.
Right.
But those connections are there, and they're vital.
Yeah. So we're reaping all these benefits from ecosystems.
Really are.
But I think the listener like me is also wondering about the flip side. We know human activities are having a major impact on the environment.
Absolutely.
How are we disrupting these delicate systems?
So one of the biggest impacts is pollution.
What?
Whether it's air, water, or land pollution, we're introducing these harmful substances that disrupt the natural balance of these ecosystems.
It's not just about dumping chemicals, though, right? There's also habitat destruction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we expand our cities, build roads, convert land for agriculture, we fragment and destroy the habitats that countless species depend on.
And that leads to
biodiversity loss, which weakens the whole ecosystem.
So it's like pulling threads out of a tapestry.
Yeah.
Eventually the whole thing starts to unravel.
Exactly.
And then there's climate change, which is like turning up the heat on an already stressed system.
Exactly. Climate change is a major threat to ecosystems around the world. You know, we're seeing shifts in temperature and precipitation patterns, rising sea levels, more extreme weather events.
Yeah.
All of these things can disrupt the ecosystems and the services they provide.
It's a pretty daunting picture.
It is.
But is there hope?
Yeah.
Are we doomed to destroy the very systems that support us?
I wouldn't say doomed. Humans are incredibly resourceful.
Yeah.
And we have the capacity to change our course.
Okay.
The key is to shift our mindset.
Okay.
From one of dominance over nature to one of understanding and cooperation.
So instead of seeing ourselves as separate,
yes,
we need to recognize that we're a part of these ecosystems.
We are interconnected and interdependent.
Okay, so we need to move towards
what's called sustainable development. Finding ways to meet our needs without compromising the health of the ecosystem.
For future generations.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But what does that look like in practice?
So there are many approaches. And they often work best in combination.
Okay.
One is ecosystem management, which involves managing resources in a way that considers the entire ecosystem, not just individual species.
So thinking holistically.
Right. Looking at the bigger picture and making decisions that benefit the whole system.
What about when an ecosystem has already been damaged?
Right.
Can we undo the harm?
We can, and that's where ecosystem restoration comes in.
Okay.
It involves actively working to repair those damaged ecosystems, like replanting forests, cleaning up polluted rivers, or reintroducing native species.
I love the idea of actively healing these systems that we've harmed.
It's like making amends.
Yeah, it really is.
And there are so many inspiring examples of ecosystem restoration happening all over the world.
Like what?
For example, there's a large-scale effort to restore the Florida Everglades.
Oh, wow.
This vast wetland ecosystem that's been degraded by pollution and water diversion.
Oh, that's great that they're working to restore that.
Yes, and closer to home, there are groups working to restore oyster reefs in local bays. Oysters are amazing filter feeders that help clean the water.
Right.
So bringing them back has all sorts of benefits for the ecosystem.
And it's not just about scientists and labs, right?
No.
It's about everyone getting involved.
Exactly. It often involves local communities.
Yeah.
Giving people a chance to connect with nature.
Yeah.
And contribute to something positive.
That's really cool.
It is.
But even with these efforts, we're still facing these huge challenges like climate change.
Mm-hmm.
How do we even begin to tackle something that feels so overwhelming?
Well, it's true that climate change is a complex issue.
Yeah.
With no easy solutions, but there are things we can do.
Okay, like what?
One is to reduce our own carbon footprint.
Okay.
By using less energy, driving less, making conscious choices about the products we buy.
Right. And advocating for policies that promote clean energy.
Absolutely.
Energy efficiency conservation.
Yes. Using our voices and our votes to demand action from our leaders.
So it's about individual actions, but also collective action.
It is. Yeah. And a shared commitment to protecting the planet we all share.
Okay, so we've talked about the many ways humans are impacting ecosystems, both negatively and positively.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complex picture.
It is.
But ultimately, it all comes back to this idea of interconnectedness.
Right.
We're not separate from nature. We're a part of it.
Exactly.
And what we do to the planet.
We do to ourselves.
Yeah, that's a powerful realization.
It is, and it brings us back to this concept of resilience,
Okay.
Something that we haven't really explored yet.
Right.
It's this crucial aspect of understanding how ecosystems respond to change, and it's something we'll delve into in the final part of our deep dive.
So we were talking about resilience at the end of the last part.
Yeah, that's right.
What is resilience exactly?
So, we talk about ecosystems being delicate.
Right.
But they also have this incredible ability to bounce back from disturbances.
Like after a fire or a storm.
Exactly, like a forest recovering after a fire or, a coral reef rebuilding itself.
Yeah, after a storm.
So that's resilience.
That's the idea of resilience. It's an ecosystem's capacity to absorb change and still maintain its core function.
So it's not about staying exactly the same.
Right.
It's about adapting.
It's about adapting and persisting in the face of challenges.
Okay, so it's less about fragility and more about flexibility.
Exactly.
Kind of like a tree bending in the wind rather than snapping.
I like that analogy.
And what makes an ecosystem resilient?
So one of the key factors is biodiversity.
Okay.
A more diverse ecosystem with a wider range of species and genetic variations.
Yeah.
It's like a team with a more diverse set of skills.
Okay.
If one species is impacted by a change, others can step in and fill the gap.
Right.
Keep the system functioning.
Well, it's like having multiple backup systems in place.
Exactly.
So if one part fails, the whole thing doesn't collapse.
Right.
But we've talked a lot about how human actions are impacting biodiversity.
Yes.
Does that mean we're making ecosystems less resilient?
It's a concern.
When we simplify ecosystems, whether through habitat loss or pollution or introducing invasive species, we're essentially reducing their capacity to adapt.
So we're making them more vulnerable.
Exactly. It's like narrowing the base of that pyramid we talked about earlier,
right,
making the whole structure more vulnerable.
Okay, so it's not just about losing individual species.
No.
It's about pushing an ecosystem past a tipping point.
Right.
Where it can't recover.
Exactly. And that's why understanding resilience is so crucial.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing those limits and managing our impacts in a way that allows them to adapt, and thrive.
Wow. So we've gone deep on the definition of ecosystems.
Yeah.
The processes that make them work, the way scientists study them, and the crucial role they play in our lives.
Absolutely.
We've also explored how humans impact ecosystems.
Yeah.
Both the good and the bad.
Both sides of the coin.
And the importance of resilience.
It's been a comprehensive deep dive.
It really has.
Exploring this incredible web of life that surrounds us.
Yeah. I hope this has sparked a sense of wonder for our listeners.
Me too.
A deeper appreciation for the complexity of ecosystems.
And their importance.
Yeah, because, knowledge is only as good as what we do with it.
That's right.
Understanding ecosystems is the first step towards protecting them.
And restoring them.
Which ultimately benefits us all.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
What resonated with you the most about ecosystems?
That's a good question.
Is it the interconnectedness of everything?
Yeah.
The diversity of life? Or maybe the role we each play in shaping the future of these vital systems?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Understanding ecosystems isn't just about accumulating facts.
Right.
It's about fostering a connection with the natural world.
Yeah.
And recognizing our place within it.
Well said. And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration.
Yes.
There's always more to learn and more ways to get involved.
Absolutely.
In protecting these incredible ecosystems. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.